But Mr. E, we have a fabulous guest. Look, by popular demand and by request, the lady wanted this wonderful, wonderful author, Dr. Hezekiah Brown, to be on with us on this morning. Good morning, Dr. Brown.
Good morning, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh my goodness! Now look, when we post you on Facebook, we get numbers like over 1,000 views looking at Dr. Hezekiah Brown. I wanted to let you know that. And thank you so much for being on Facebook and all our other platforms. And thank you for being on FYI Radio Show. Tell us a little bit about yourself to those that don't know you, where you're from, and where you hail from now, because you're not in Elizabeth City. Well, tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about what you do.
Well, professionally, I'm an arbitrator, mediator, and conflict consultant, and I have resolved in excess of 5,000 labor management and community disputes. I call myself an expert in terms of conflict management. I just want to thank you again for inviting me. This is Black History Month, and in Black History Month, I think that what we have to do is do what others do, and that is teach Black history. For example, I think many of the other races teach Black history in reverse. For example, what they teach is the negative side of Black history. They teach their people that African Americans are less than human beings. They teach them that they're lazy, that you can't trust them. And they keep this and they keep passing this down generation after generation. And it has an adverse effect on us. But once they plant the seed, when young Caucasians or others, that this is what Black folks are, this is what they believe, and they grow up disliking us because of what they are taught. So I think it's high time, being this Black History Month, that we start teaching the real Black history to our children in the churches, in the community, in schools, and every place else, so they will understand what Black history really is. And they will understand that in Black history, why many whites are afraid to approach this under the critical race theory is because of that fact that they think that they have done so much to hurt us as African Americans during slavery and now. They've hurt us so much until they don't want anybody else to know it. But I'm saying that there were a lot of white people who were able to help us. For example, the Supreme Court decision, the 1954 Brown versus the Board of Education Supreme Court decision, was rendered by 9 white men, and they voted unanimously that the Plessy-Ferguson decision was unconstitutional. 9 white men. There have been a whole number of white people who died in the civil rights movement. There have been a whole number of people who was helpful during the transfer and the transgression of Black people from slavery to so we have to tell them that they are part of this, that all white people are not bad people. There were some who helped us more than, and really was able to help us get out of slavery. Now,
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dr. Brown.
No, so I'll tell you a little bit about where I came from. See, I'm from the old school. I've been around for a long period of time. I have seen changes, and I've seen changes and not changes and changes. For example, I was born in the Deep South. I was born in a place called Pritchard, Alabama. And I was born in poverty. It was 11 in my family. I came from what is considered nowadays a broken family. After 11 children, my mother and father separated, and we had to really mend for ourselves, and we did a good job doing that because then we learned what family really is. Family was helping each other. I'm a former migrant farm worker. I had to leave Alabama because I hated everything about it, and just moved along the system and went back to, I was a high school dropout. I went back to school. I got my college degree. I went back to school, and then I have some pretty comfortable jobs that I've had over a period of time. But it hasn't been easy. I've faced discrimination in every area. I've dealt with it. I know how to deal with it, and I want to teach others how to deal with discrimination.
You know, I'm really thankful for, you know, what you just said, and the fact that we have to teach people who we are. You know, they've learned through, you know, information being passed down that was wrong, but it's up to us, and that's why I appreciate Black History Month, because we can tell our children and other races, this is us, this is what we do, this is how we celebrate ourselves, this is how far we've come from, and this is where we're going. And I think it's very important that we do have those lessons for other people. We celebrate Black History Month, but we also take the time to teach others about who we are as a people. I want to talk about conflict resolution. What is conflict resolution?
Well, conflict resolution is something that happens on a day-to-day basis. Conflict resolution is a process where you teach and aid individuals and teach them how to resolve conflict. It could be individuals, it could be groups, it could be countries, it could be all these things. You teach people, you give them skills that they never had before, because simply this is one of the problems in our country. One of the problems of the country that we teach everything but conflict resolution, and for some reason we just don't focus on that. We don't teach conflict resolution, so people don't know how to resolve disputes. So one of the things that I've been successful in is teaching people how to do this. And as a matter of fact, I've resolved, I think I mentioned before, resolved over 5,000 community disputes, divorce, labor management disputes, every kind of dispute that I've been involved in it. Yes.
Amazing. You said something earlier when you was on our previous show one time before, Dr. Brown. You said before you enter into a meeting, you got to leave your feelings outside the door. What's that, the word feelings? Would that help in conflict? Would that help a lot of folks when they go to so they can understand what's going on?
I think that would, because that word I used, if you're going to be a conflict resolver, you have to check your ego at the door before you go in.
Ego, that's it.
And since we talk about men are the most difficult to check their ego, not only going in the door, but any place else. That's just something that's inherently part of African American men, is that ego. But that's what we encourage you to do, is check your ego at the door, and you're going to resolve any kind of dispute that's on the table.
Dr. Brown, how hard is it to resolve conflict? And you as an instructor, because of the way the environment is now, people are resolving conflict with guns and violence. Yeah. How do you break this cycle? Because I was looking at some of the numbers here in the Hampton Roads area, and it's been so many, murders, and not just murders, but conflicts that have been, death has resulted through these means. Well, how do you go somewhere where there's extreme conflict and try to get people to get together and come to a better place?
First of all, and that's a great question. First of all, it is something that we have to start to do. It's not going to change overnight. It's going to be a long-range process. But we have to start teaching young people at an early age in school, make it mandatory part of the school curriculum that young people are taught conflict resolution. Teachers are taught, administrators, because we have so much conflict even with administrators. We have conflict with children in school, and teachers do not have the tools to do this with. So we have to start teach that in school, because they don't get it at home. Yolanda, what they get at home is sometimes kids leave home with their parents are fighting, their sister fighting, their brother fighting, and then we advocate violence, because if someone hits your sister or brother, you go out and you beat the other person up. That's not the solution. The solution is being able to understand and exchange position with the other parties. And I give you three quick examples of what people can do if they're going to be a problem solver, if they're going to resolve disputes. Number one, in order to resolve disputes, you got to first of all do self-examination. You must look at yourself. You must define the kind of person you are. What are the things that set you off? What are the things that anger you? But you have to examine yourself first. And the second one is the most difficult one. The second one is being able to exchange position with the other party, no matter what. Change position with them, stand in their shoes. Given the same circumstance, the same condition, what would I have done if I had the same thing happen to me? The third one is even more difficult, is develop good listening skills. Because what we don't do as individuals, we don't listen. If we engage in a conversation, we end up mentally arguing with the other side and preparing to respond. And doing all of that, you miss what is being said. So those are three quick things that if people would just take and use those now as a methodology to resolve disputes, you would find some of those disputes resolved. Now, here are the real reasons why we don't have any tools to resolve disputes, because nobody teaches conflict resolution. I don't say nobody, but very few people teach conflict resolution. They rely upon what has happened traditionally in their family. What did they see their mother do? What did they see their father? That's what they do, and that's how they resolve disputes. And that kind always lead to violence. All right? Now, if we want to really get rid of violence in our community, if we really want to get rid of violence in our community, we have to go to the root of the problem. And what we've been doing a lot of time, we've been skirting the problem. And if we define the wrong problem, you're going to get the wrong solutions. But one of the major problems in our community that's causing the various killings and shooting all the time is not interpersonal relationship. It is economics. It is drugs. If we would fight hard, the number one thing we have to do is fight hard and fight everybody in order to remove the drugs from our community. If we remove the drugs from our community, we would solve 90% of the problem. You would see 90% less kids. You would see 90% less kids going to jail, 90% less being killed. That's what they're fighting over.
Do you really think, Dr. Brown, that that's the solution to the problem? That do society or do the government really want to resolve that? Get rid of the drugs from out of the community, get rid of these dirty guns from out of the community, get rid of the murder charge. Do you really think that Virginia, let's say like Virginia, Alabama, really, especially in the neighborhoods, do you really think they want to get rid of that?
No, they don't want to get rid of it. But this is one of the problems, one of this resolution, one of the problems. This is one. It is a multitude of things that we have to do if we're going to address this issue and address it head on. We cannot, listen, building more jails are not going to solve the problem. Hiring more policemen is not going to solve the problem. Passing more legislation not going to solve the problem. As a matter of fact now, with what happened recently in Memphis, Tennessee, that all we are talking about doing is passing legislation. And let me just put this on the table while I'm talking. If we would only enforce the legislation that's already been passed since 1870, we would be in great shape. We wouldn't have to do anything if we just enforce that. So when you pass legislation, you have to enforce it. Now, trying to pass the George Floyd Act is probably going to be passed, because every time a crisis comes, they find legislation to pass just to quiet things down. But until we go to the root of the problem and start teaching people how to resolve conflict, then we're going to have the same problem. Let me give you one illustration. Right now, they have just passed a multi-bill that was passed by the Senate and passed by the House and signed by the President. It's called the Infrastructure Bill. The Infrastructure Bill will help various communities, help some get rich, but they're going to rebuild highways, byways, bridges, roadways, plumbing, and pipe. They're going to build all these things here, and they're happy about it. And they say it was a good bill. I agree it was a good bill, but they haven't spent one dime on rebuilding people, particularly black families. All right? I'm just saying, during slavery, our black families was destroyed. It was easy to go and sell a kid. It was easy to sell a father away from the family. It was easy to teach the kids that pass a law that is unlawful to read, and we worry about our kids reading now. So a lot of things happened during slavery is still in our community now. So what we have to start to doing is to unfold this and unroll this and start talking. And how do we rebuild families? That's what we have to do. Because the families are destroyed. I think 72% of the kids in our community is born into single family homes. 70% single family homes. There's no father. The incarceration problem is rampant because that is one of the real problems that we have, because sometimes even from many of the young people in jail now, they're in jail because of either sale of drugs, use of drugs, or killing somebody because of drugs, all right? So the man is taken from the family, and those kids end up in the same area that they lived in. Same area, single parent mother, 2 and 3 kids, trying to raise the kids. And then if you look at history and look at statistics, those same kids where the father's away, it's about 75% chance that those kids are going to be incarcerated. Even some of the things that we use, we think is good, like foster parents. Do you know what the statistics say about foster parents? A proud 2/3 of the kids that's in foster homes now, they will end up in prison or using drugs.
Oh my goodness.
So we got a multitude of problems that we need to address, and we, instead of addressing the problem, we keep skirting the problem. One of the problems is this mass incarceration with all of these people that's in jail, mostly a high number of black and Hispanic folks who are incarcerated. That's the number one thing that we have to do. And the second thing we have to do is start to encourage our people to become entrepreneurs. You know we're at the bottom of the line. 70% of entrepreneurships are owned by whites. All right? Another 14% is Hispanic. Another 6% is Asians. And guess where we are? Blacks, 2% in entrepreneurship. So we have to encourage our race of people, and we have to find funds to do it and support it, that we have to start to be entrepreneurs. That would keep people from wanting to go to jail. That would keep people from wanting to sell drugs if they can make money like everybody else in our society. But we are not encouraged. They don't teach entrepreneurship in school. They don't teach it in the community. They don't teach it in church.
Absolutely. Dr. Brown, what can we do with this, the struggle and the conflict with law enforcement and our community? It is something, to me, I don't even know if it's getting worse. I don't know how it will change. It seems as though we as African American are still looking at our own being, just tied up and beat and whipped. And then it has a nerve in this situation here with Tyree Nichols, our own color, our own race, causing such a problem within the community as well. Can you address that? What can we do to resolve conflicts between law enforcement and the community?
Okay, number one is that I must put this on the table, that law enforcement itself is in the same category as most other workplaces. It's a small percentage of people who commit these crimes. It's not all policemen. I've had great experience with policemen on many occasions, but it's a small percentage. I don't care where you work at. You're going to find a few people who thrive on conflict. A few, all right?
Yes.
Okay. So now even with the policemen, the way they are taught and the way they are trained is exactly what they do. All right? They themselves always think that, well, if I don't do something, that I'm not going to go home and be with my family. The policemen only knew a few things. Number one, if they acknowledge and recognize that the louder you talk, the less people listen.
Wow.
And sometimes talking loud and screaming at people is disrespectful. So people have to understand that, that there are ways that people get out of hand and so on. But this case with Nichols is just a unique kind of a case. This guy got away and ran. They could have let him go where he go because he hadn't done it. They still had his car. He would have came back. They didn't have to beat him when they been. So, but what I'm saying, it's a culture that has to be changed. You know, they have to learn to, first of all, how to communicate with people. They have to learn to not be disrespectful with people, and they have to learn one thing. Let me just share this with you. What they have to learn is that even in a traffic violation, do you know the first person that person is angry with? The first person they're angry with is themselves. They're angry with themselves because they know they may have violated the law. So by the time the policeman he come with his hand on his gun, and I'm already angry because I ran a red light, I ran a stop sign, I know I did it angry.
Yes.
And so that's automatic conflict, and the guy said, oh, I didn't do anything, you know, I just ran a why? And the guy has his hand on his gun, all right, for these simple violations. So I'm saying there has to be ways and means that you treat people, and there has to be ways and means that you don't just automatically pull your gun on somebody who just simply violated a traffic, ran a stop sign. And guess what? We all do it. Sometimes, you know, concentrating or not concentrating. We run red lights. We run cautious lights. We all do it, and they fail to realize that. So we have to start to really address how the policemen are trained at these institutions. Everybody's not out to kill them. They need to understand the interpersonal skills, how to communicate with people. That you sometimes, you know, they did this in Camden, New Jersey. Camden, New Jersey had all of the worst of everything, the schools and everything. And what they did, they changed the whole culture of their police department. Until now, and you know what? When the police department culture changed, the dropout rate in the schools went down. The kids attending class, the crime went down, the drug went down. When they started what is called real policing, with the humanistic approach to policing. That's what it is.
Dr. Brown, we have a few more minutes remaining. How about giving our listening audience some information, titles of your book, and information on how to contact you?
Well, I give the information twice on how to contact me. It's 516-815-8679. And I said it fast. I'm going to say it slow now. 516-815-8679. If you want to email me, it's HEZ38@AOL.com.